Let's move to the next part of the Sunday Feast program, which is the Sunday Feast class. I request all of you all to, Mataji, to come forward and please turn towards the speakers. Speakers are going to sit here. And request all the Prabhus to come this side. Let you all settle down. Kids, come forward. Come. Vandya, come. Dhriti, Neha, all of you will come forward. Come, Meera. Okay. So, with that, I would like to give a brief introduction of today's Sunday Feast speakers. We have Abhay Prabhu and Rohini Mataji. Many of you all know them very well. There are some new people, so I would like to take a few words to glorify them. Abhay Prabhu is called the Gandharva of Austin. Prabhu sings amazingly for the glorification of Radharani. And many Vaishnava temples have Asthana Vidwan, where they are the first singers who sing in glorification. And Prabhu does that to our temple, and it's amazing. In background, they do a lot of services for our temple and give a lot of classes. Along with Prabhu is Mataji, Rohini Mataji. Mataji is one of the most humble Vaishnavi in our temple, and she's really very kind. When you interact with her, you will know that. And she does a lot of services, cleaning service, cooking service. And for Janmashtami, she's also coordinating the kids' kit. So if you want your kids to participate in Janmashtami's kit, please contact her. They are wonderful devotees. With that, I'll hand over the stage to them to give today's Sunday Feast class. Hare Krishna, Prabhu and Mataji, over to you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Veena Mataji, for the kind introduction. Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to the Sunday Feast program. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we'll start with singing Jai Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya
Jaya Vijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari
Jaya Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari जय गिरिवरधारी
जय यशोदानंदन जय ब्रज जन जय
यशोदानंदना जय ब्रज जन जाना
जय यशोदानंदन जय ब्रज जन जय
यशोदानंदना जय ब्रज जन जाना
जय जय कुंज विहारी
जय कुंज बिहारी
जय जय कुंज बिहारी जय
जय कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माता जय कुंज बिहारी बोलो जय 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 कुंज बिहारी जय विजयनवर वर जय गिरिवर जय विजयनवर
जय
जय यशोदानंदन जय ब्रज जन जय यशोदा
जय ब्रज जन
जय हरे जय कुंज बिहारी जय
जय कुंज बिहारी
हरे जय कुंज बिहारी
जय कुंज बिहारी
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम राम हरे हरे
कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Rama, Ram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Rama,
Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare,
Krishna, Hare Rama, Ram.
लो श्री राधा दामोदर भगवान की जय, सिंहदेव भगवान की, भगवतवाणी भगवद गीता की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today we will read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 14. Bhagavad Gita 18:14. I got it. Thank you. Please repeat after me. Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidam vividhas cha prathak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidam vividhascha prathak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidam विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथक्विदम् विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्
अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
करणं च पृथक्विदं
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवत्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् प्रभु
अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
करणं च पृथग्विदं
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधाश्च प्रतिचेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवत्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं Go ahead, somebody else. अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथक्विदम् विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथक्विदम् विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
देवं चैवत्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधश्च पृथक् चेतस्ता
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवत्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् वन मोर लास्ट अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथक्विदम्
विविधश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
विविधाश्च पृथक् चेष्टा
दैवं चैवत्र पञ्चमम्
दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम् So translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul, these are the 5 factors of action. So anybody wants to read the purport quickly?
The instruments of actions are the senses, and by the senses the soul acts in the various ways. For each and every action there is a different endeavor, but all one's activities depends on the will of the super soul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the super soul situated within the heart is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the Supreme Will, the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Sri Vishakam Svitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Amimi Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Bayasha Krapa Sindhu Bevacha Patita Nama Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you Hare Krishna devotees for joining this Sunday feast program. First of all, we express our gratitude to His Grace Satyasara Prabhu and Jai Subhadra Mataji for giving us this service. We personally feel we are not very qualified, but we'll do this service for our purifications. We'll also seek blessings from the Vaishnavas in this assembly. If we make any mistakes, please forgive us. And we seek your blessings again. Hare Krishna. So this Bhagavad Gita is an amazing text. It is accepted by all the sampradayas, all the acharyas. Everyone has written their commentaries on it. And there is another reason for it, and that reason is, this text, it gives us the key to successfully live our life, one, and number two is to successfully liberate from this world. That's why this Bhagavad Gita is a unique text. So this verse we are talking about here in chapter 18, this is the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And here, the Lord Krishna is talking about the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which from all the previous chapters that he has given. Like whenever, even if we read a mundane book, the last chapter represents, the closing arguments from the author. So similarly, here in this chapter, the Lord is giving us the last pieces of instructions to Arjuna. And not just Arjuna, those instructions are for us also. So that's what makes it very unique and very special. There is a saying, people say that ignorance is bliss, right? Who agrees with ignorance is bliss? So, if you don't know about the problem, you don't worry about it. But that doesn't work for self-realization, If someone comes and says you ignorance is bliss, you have to respond them as, and knowledge is the power. So this knowledge, that comes from Bhagavad Gita. Some people may choose and say, well, I want to do some karma kanda way, follow the Vedas, but the karma kanda way may elevate them to a higher consciousness, and maybe they may achieve the heavenly planets, let's say a Swargaloka. But what will happen, once they go to Swargaloka, they will probably get more material facilities, more sense gratification, longer lifespans, everything. But when they finish all the results of their pious activities, they will fall down, on this earthly planet and take the birth again. So it is just like, somebody says, hey, it's too hot in Texas, it's 104, 107 degrees, let me go to Hawaii. So they do austerity. What is their austerity? They save some money, buy tickets, go to Hawaii. In Hawaii, they enjoy like the nice blue water, white sandy beach, do snorkeling, swimming, everything. But eventually what happens? They run out of money. And when they run out of money, they have to get some more money and then they have to come back to Texas. So the moral of the story is there is no permanent enjoyment. Whatever you do, you have to come back. Srila Prabhupada, in his purports in Bhagavad Gita, he gives the example of a Ferris wheel. A Ferris wheel, it kind of goes up and down. So the thing is that you just keep going up and down, but without a proper exit, there is no coming out of the cycle of birth and death. It's very important. Somebody can say that, oh, we can do demigod worship, demigod worship, demigods can give me quick results. That's right. But the thing is that those results are temporary. They are not permanent results. Even Hiranyakashipu, when he went to Lord Brahma and says, I want immortality, Lord Brahma says, I cannot give you that because I myself is not, immortal. I'm a mortal being. And then they may probably go to like the planets of those demigods. But all those planets, they still rely into the material universe. And that's why they are subjected to the birth, age, death, old age and disease. So that's not a blissful experience. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, the demigod worship is avidhi purvakam. That is, it is not the right way. It is just like watering the leaves of a plant. Instead of watering the root of the plant, we are just trying to water the leaves of the plant. So which is not proper. We always water the root of the plant. Imagine you have a nice juicy rasgulla, and instead of picking up that rasgulla and putting it into the stomach, you just take the rasgulla and just kind of squeeze it in your hands. Can your fingers get any fun out of that? You just keep squeezing the rasgulla here. So you cannot get any fun out of that, until you put the rasgulla into the stomach, and then the hand can get some value from it. So it's similar to that. That's why, worshipping the Supreme is the best option. That's what devotees do. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that in the Adi Leela, Akele Ishvara Krishna Are Sababhratya Yare Yaiche Nachaya Te Taiche Kare Nitya. The translation is, Lord Krishna alone is the supreme controller and all others are his servants. They dance as he makes them do so. So this is pretty conclusive statement about Krishna's position and our position. So coming to this particular verse, in this verse, Lord is talking about 5 factors of action. So an intelligent person must consider all these 5 factors before, for all of their actions, for all their activities. So the number 1 is Adhishtanam. What is Adhishtanam? Is the place of action or the body. Karta is the performer or the soul within the body. The third one is the Karanam, which is the instruments or the senses. Then the next one is Cheshta or the endeavors, different activities that we do. And the last one of the 5 factor is the Supreme or the Super Soul. Now we have been reading the Bhagavad Gita, and we all know the difference between a body and the soul, right? A lot of people don't even know that. It's that ignorance we were talking about. People think when the body is finished, everything is finished. That is ignorance. And Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 2.20, Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So when he is not slain, when the body is slain, who is talking about? He is talking about the soul. So the soul does not die. There are many other differences, like, the body undergoes 6 different kind of changes. There is no change for the soul. The body takes a birth and it dies. There is always, as soon as you take a birth, there is an expiry date stamped on you. But there is no birth and death for the soul. Now there is also a relationship between the soul and the super soul. The soul is atomic, it's Anu. And the super soul is Vibhu, it's infinite. The soul is forgetful of its real nature. It forgets. But the super soul or the Krishna, he doesn't forget. He remembers everything, the past, present and the future. And the soul is limited in strength. But the super soul or Krishna is all powerful. Then the third factor is the senses. Lord has given us various senses to do various activities. So we have 5 knowledge acquiring senses: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. Then we have 5 working senses, and then we have a sense within that is called the mind. And what does mind do? It is the leader of the senses. So what does mind do? It does thinking, feeling and willing. and it acts through the senses. Whatever mind has to do, it will get that done through the senses. The mind is like a monkey, it cannot sit still for a moment. It will just keep jumping from one branch to another. And then we have different chesta. Chesta is the different endeavors that we carry out. And then the final factor is the Daivam or the super soul. Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 13.23, Upadeshtan manta cha bhoktar brata bhoktar maheshwara. So the translation is, yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and the permitter. So Upadeshta is overseer, Anumanta is permitter. And that's super soul. So let's take an example and try to understand this together, like how these factors are coming together. So, for example, there's a tennis player, and he wants to win the Wimbledon championship. Everybody knows tennis, yes. So tennis player wants to win the Wimbledon championship. So let's see how this applies on that. So the first factor is the tennis player must be alive, right? Because a dead body cannot win a championship. So that's, so that's why, there must be a body, Number two is karanam. The tennis player should have his hands and his legs in good form. What if the tennis player has their hands and legs fractured? They cannot win a championship. What if they are on the wheelchair? They cannot win the championship. So they should have good senses. Number three is chesta, the endeavor. Now the tennis player cannot just go there and then start winning the matches, like beat the defending champion. So the thing is that they have to do different endeavors. What are these endeavors? They have to do practice. He has to go to coaches, to do exercise, strength training, follow some regime, get some endurance, strength, get speed, some good, mental level, so that he can, keep up with that game. And then final is the Daivam. So everyone knows, even somebody is on the material plane, that everyone knows that there is some divine factor, there is some role that destiny plays. It's beyond them. And that's why normally people at the material level, they follow some kind of superstitions. Somebody says, well, I'm just going to wear this number 8 jersey. That's lucky for me. I'm going to carry 8 rackets, 8 bottles of water. Somebody just wears one pair of socks in the first match. If they win, they're going to keep wearing the same set of socks for the entire tournament. Somebody start growing their beard in the beginning of the tournament, and they just keep that lucky beard throughout the tournament. So they do all these kind of superstitions. But the thing is that they all recognize, that there is something else beyond what they can do themselves, in that capacity. Sometimes people go out of form. There is nothing wrong, but they just cannot win any matches. So what is happening? There is nothing wrong. They are doing their practice, everything, but they are just out of form. So the thing is that despite of all their desires to do things, there is something else that comes into picture. Now, another meaning of adhishtanam is the place of work. That is in the context of this example, there are different types of tennis courts. There is a grass court, there is a clay court, there is a hard court. So that is also one of the factors. So as you can see that, in order for one action to go all the way in success, there are several different factors that are involved. So out of the 5 factors that we talked about, what are these? The performer, place, senses, and endeavor. These are in the control of an individual. So they are called the Purushartha. Purushartha means our own effort. And the last factor, or the 5th factor, which is Daivam, that is outside of it. So 4 things that a living entity can do, but the 5th factor, it's beyond their control. Another example. Somebody wants to drive from place A to place B, and their goal is to make sure that, my journey should be happy, it should be successful, So how does these factors come into picture? Number 1, the performer, So that's the driver of the vehicle. So when the driver should be capable, the driver should be an expert at driving. What if the driver doesn't know? A lot of times, they say, well, be careful of the student driver because they drive erratically, So, well, there is a good chance of having accidents if there is a student driver. But if there is an expert driver, they are fine. So that is one factor. Number 2 is the place. Sometimes, let's say if you are driving on the Texas highways, which are miles and miles and long highways, there is nothing. That's great. But if you're driving somewhere in the Colorado or the mountains with like all the deep valleys, and everything, or on the icy roads, that's a factor because the place would make a difference, Now the senses. So how does the senses come into picture? What if the driver has not slept last night and now he's driving the car and he's just dozing off. So even if, he can perform well, he is an expert driver, there is nothing wrong with the roads, but the senses may not work right. What if the driver is drunk? We see like a lot of drunk driving accidents. And then the endeavor, like how it fits in this example is how alert the driver is. Like there is a lot of, accidents due to like texting, so even if like everything is right, the driver is texting, he is not alert, he is not paying attention, so the senses are distracted, And then lastly, like how the Daivam comes into picture of this example, and we see that many times, there is no fault of the driver, but somebody else comes and then, they cause the accident. So that is the Daivam factor. Where is that coming from? Well, I'm not doing any mistake, how does that happen? And that is the Daivam or the super soul factor, that comes from your actions maybe. So what we understand from this is in terms of doing our actions or purushartha, these four factors, we should make sure that all the things that we have in our control, we should do them properly. We make sure that there is no stone unturned, when we do our actions. And then once we do those actions, then we leave the results to Krishna, whatever he sanctions. That's the lesson we can learn, from this. Somebody gives an exam, then it is their job to study for the exam. It cannot say that, they cannot do that, well, I did not study, I've been having fun all this year, but now I failed, this is Daivam. No, this is not Daivam, this is your problem, right? So that's where, that's how we have to understand this. This is knowledge. So the thing is that how we understand this thing is, first of all, we have to come out of our body consciousness. We have to understand that I am not this body, because, when we are on the body consciousness, we think we are this body, we think that I am the doer. I am the one who is doing everything. We don't see any other factors. I am a spirit soul. I am a part and parcel of Krishna. I am so minuscule. I am so tiny. I am powerless. And I am dependent on Krishna. So when we have that mood, that understanding, then we understand that we are not this ultimate doer. We could be an intermediate doer. Because we could be starting the process, but the Supreme, He is the Sarva Karana Karana. He is the one who is making it do the whole thing. So what we can do to maintain this consciousness? We engage into devotional service. We recognize that we are insignificant. Like people think, well, I can do anything, and that's where they go wrong, because that's not our right position. We are nobody. We have to cultivate this mood of dependence on Krishna. Do everything for Lord's pleasure. And then we chant, we follow the orders of Guru, spiritual master, associate with devotees, discuss philosophy with them, read Srila Prabhupada's book. So when we do that, this feeling, this mood ingrains in our actions, in our thought process. So how does it changes our thought process, So the results that we do, the things that we do into this mood are very different than the results that we get otherwise, in a material consciousness. How does it affect? When we work in a dependent mood, we feel that we get a very uplifting feeling. We get a very fulfilling existence. We know that we have a purpose. That's what we know. We feel that we are instruments of His will. We are not instruments of our own. And regardless of results of the action, we are not morose, we are happy. Somebody goes for a book distribution, they do their best to distribute a book. If somebody takes the book, great. If not, we leave that result to Krishna. But we do our job. We do everything that we can. Now, how does that contrast with somebody who thinks I am the doer? Well, when somebody thinks he is the doer, then he gets filled with false ego, because he's doing things on his own. He's controlled by the three modes of the nature. And somebody who's into that feeling, they are always in the duality of happiness and suffering. Why? Because they are on their own. They are not having any connection with the Krishna. So eventually, this is our choice. This is our choice. Where we want to be. we are always controlled. We need to decide whether we want to be controlled by the three modes of nature or we want to be controlled by the Supreme, which is our original position. That free will is ours. So I'll pass on to Rohini for her to share her thoughts. Thank you.
So Prabhu just mentioned that these verse talk of, in this verse there are 5 causes of action for any action to happen. So and ultimate cause is the Supreme Soul. So one may say that if everything is so if everything is happening by the will of the Lord, because ultimately only when Lord sanctions we are able to do that action. So if Lord doesn't sanction, we are not able to do that action. So if everything happens by will of Lord, then why should I act? There is no need to act, because anyway everything is happening by will of Lord. So but we cannot do that. Why? Because by nature soul is very active, and when Arjuna was bewildered in the Kurukshetra war, he did not wanted to fight. So Krishna told Arjuna that by his will he has already put everyone to death by my arrangement. So you just have to become an instrument. Lord never said that anyway this is going to happen, so you don't fight. Lord said you do your prescribed duty, because anyway you become my instrument. So what happens when you become my instrument? Then you are not going to get the reaction. So we have to do the action anyway, but the action should be done with knowledge. That is the most important thing. We should know. We cannot be ignorant, because why? When we become ignorant, we will get the reactions and it will keep us in this cycle of birth and death. And in this cosmic manifestation, there is a chance, like we have this chance to go back to Godhead. And how we can understand this? We can understand this by example. When His Grace Radhesham Prabhu came to Austin, he gave this example which I really like. That a son is, he wants to drive the real car, and his father, he doesn't allow him to drive real car, of course, because he cannot do that. He is just 7-8 years old. So, but he really wants to do it. So father doesn't want to lose his trust because he is really angry. So what he does, he get him a toy car. And he is driving that car on the road, and the father is driving his real car in very slow speed behind them to give him that feeling, his son, that he is doing that. And after some time what happens? The son is little, he gets tired, and then he waves his dad, come on, let's take me in your car. And then they both go to the place where they wanted to go. So this is what it is with us. Like originally we all were in the spiritual world with Lord, but we wanted to enjoy separately from Him. So when we wanted to enjoy separately from Him, what did Lord do? He created this material world, and He Himself, He accompanied the soul. He accompanied the soul in the form of super soul. And the super soul, it sits besides the individual soul and it acts as a witness. He doesn't do any, super soul is just witnessing the soul. And because the soul desired to do activity independently, so Lord is supreme controller. He doesn't need to. He just can he just can control that soul. That you cannot do this. I am supreme. You have to stay with me. But Lord is looking for the loving relationship with that soul. Because we are part and parcel of the Lord, we have relationship with the Lord. So out of love, Lord, let the super soul be independent and let him himself find out that this is not going to work. And the Lord comes, accompanies the soul in form of super soul, and he sits with the soul and he is waiting. For what? He is waiting that when we will turn towards him, when we will look at the Lord and we will want to go back, just like that kid wanted to go back with his father. But we are covered by modes of material nature. So we started to think that we are the controller, as Prabhu mentioned, that doer, because of the false ego, we think we are the doer. So why we think that way? Because we don't have the knowledge. So it is very important that we do our actions with knowledge. And Lord is equally kind, and this verse also says that I am your friend. Lord mentioned this text. So he is so kind that he comes in our heart. He sits as a super soul. And if we leave this body, if we take another body, whether it's a body of an animal, human, insect, whatever living entity the soul goes in, the Lord follows that soul. So that is the sweetness of Lord. So when we get the knowledge about Lord, what is real knowledge? when we know about the greatness of Lord, and also when we get this knowledge that how Lord is also sweet, like how also he is looking at that relationship, because he is the supreme. He doesn't need to come and follow with us, right? He can send anyone, but he himself want to make sure that we go back to him. So that is the sweetness of the Lord. So how can we get this knowledge? Because in this material world, the knowledge that we get is all matter. Like you, and this is not complete, because we think that matter is alone working everywhere. It is not connected to spirit. But in actually what is complete knowledge is to know matter, is to know spirit, and to know who is the source behind that. Source behind them is the Supreme Lord. So how can we get this knowledge? So we can get this knowledge by surrendering to the bona fide spiritual master, because he is the self-realized soul who has seen the truth, who knows the truth. And when we surrender to spiritual master and we perform devotional service under his guidance, then what happens? The false ego, that I am this body, that false ego starts to get dissolved. Why? Because spiritual master, first he gives us devotional service, he engages our senses, and he gives us the understanding, he gives us the right knowledge. And by mercy of Krishna and Guru, when that knowledge is awakened in our heart, we come to know our position, that our position is that we are part and parcel of the Lord, and we are the servants of the Lord, and he is the master. So when we get that knowledge, then we realize, and when we get that knowledge, when we understand that knowledge, and when we apply that knowledge, then that knowledge burns all our impious activities as well as pious activities. Because to go back to Godhead, we are in this cycle because we are committing sin due to ignorance. So whatever, we want to gratify our senses. That's the reason we have this false ego, because we think I am the enjoyer. So we want to gratify our senses. So we do activities which will make us happy. So when we do that activity, then we incur sin, because what we are doing is against, we are not supposed to enjoy this material nature. So, and we get stuck in this cycle of birth and death. So what Guru does is, he lets us, when a bona fide spiritual master, he cleans our heart, the contamination that we are carrying by giving us knowledge. So that removes, when the knowledge, it removes all the contamination, and we can, it purifies our intelligence, it purifies our senses, and then we become eligible to go back to Godhead. So, though the material, this material body is engaged in the service of the Lord, so, but when it is under instruction of the Guru and Krishna, it doesn't remain contaminated. Why? Because we are acting with knowledge. So, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada also in purport explains that how Krishna, when Krishna, what he does is, when he is for his devotees, they don't get any reaction to their work. Why? Because they are working for will of Krishna. They see that how my desire, their desire is aligning with Krishna's desire. So they don't incur any sin, because they use all their body, mind, senses, they use everything for service of Krishna. Instead, they don't use to serve themselves. So that is the loving relationship. So the most important thing in this is, Krishna does not, Krishna in this, Krishna takes the position, it helps the devotees. Why? Because voluntarily they want to come to Krishna. So one may say that Krishna is being partial, because he for the devotee, if he works for Krishna, he doesn't get any reaction. How is that? Because it's not that for those who are not worshipping Krishna, Krishna doesn't want to do it, but it is their desire. It is their desire to act independently. So Lord wants them to voluntarily surrender. So that is the thing, because pure devotees, they voluntarily surrender to the Lord. And when they voluntarily surrender to Lord, that's why Lord takes care of them. So that is the fifth factor. That fifth factor, when it is favorable, because it's ultimately His will, then all other four factors fall in place. We can understand this from the example that when Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill Prahlad Maharaj, so he tried everything. He put him in boiling water, in fire. So all four factors were in favor of Hiranyakashipu, they were aligned. But it was not the will of Lord. So what then happened? Then Lord Lord protected Prahlad because Mare Krishna Rakhe Krishna Mare ke. That is the mood of the Lord. Lord wants to protect devotees. He wants to protect all of us. But a devotee isn't aligned with the desire of Lord. So he doesn't act separately. He acts to satisfy the senses of Lord. So when a devotee acts in such a way, the action becomes yajna. Like, it becomes sacrifice. Whatever you do, if we offer to the Lord, then it is yajna, because there is no false ego in that. You are doing it out of love and you are doing it out of devotion. So when that action happens, it is akarma. You don't get any reaction, and then you are able to go back to Godhead. So, but when we see non-devotees, when they do action, it's like they think I am the doer. As Prabhu explained that, they want to be independent, they want to be on their own. Then for them, devotee, first Lord sanctions those actions also, what they want to do, but according to their karma and also according to their what they deserve. If they deserve to have that, then modes of material nature act on that part. So it is not that the person is doing the activity, it's the activity is done by the modes of material nature. But the person thinks that I am doing the activity. But in both cases, the sanction is given by the Lord. So ultimately the cause is the Lord. But we have to also see that how we can get out of this doership mentality, because only then we can go to the Lord and we can be with Him. Because what is keeping us, this like doership mentality, the ego, the false ego, that is what is keeping us to go back to Godhead, and it is keeping us in the cycle of birth and death, and we are again coming, having we enjoy for some time, but this is temporary enjoyment. Some people say, so what, we are having a good time here, why do we need to go back? But this is all going to end. In the end, you have to leave your loved ones and you will go back. So this is a suffering. You have to get out of this. So, and you cannot get out until you get the knowledge. So how you get out of this is by your by doership mentality, to get rid of this mentality that I am the doer. First we have to be grateful. We have to learn how to be grateful to Krishna. Because when we have the grateful mood, when we see that everything that is given by Krishna. So Krishna, out of love, He has given the ability, the whatever desires we have, He has given us the means to fulfill that desire. So it is not that we are doing that. It is Krishna arranging it for us. So, the simple example we can say is like when we eat food, the food is digested. But it is not that we are digesting. Krishna is in the form of the digestive fire. Krishna digests that food. Krishna says whatever work you are able to do. Is that because the ability in man is Krishna. So from morning to night, if you do any activity, there is no single activity that you can claim that I am doing this. So what else you are very grateful that I can see with this eyes the beautiful world you have made. I can hear with this, with this ear. So whatever activity we are doing, we can be grateful that, thank you Krishna for giving us all this. But for what? He has given, so we can use this matter to work for His satisfaction. Like we can use the ears to hear nice kirtans or glories of the Lord. We can use the eyes to see the beautiful form of the Lord. So when we use whatever is given by Krishna, we can use for His service. That's what will liberate us from the mood, from this mood of false ego, I am the doer. And also, the way our body works itself is amazing. So we can see how Krishna has created this complete perfect world for us, so that we can, whatever desires we have, we can fulfill that desires. But some people can say, then what about the sufferings? Is it also the will of the Lord? No. How we can say that how can a loving father see his child suffer, right? Can we, if we want our child to have, that in the previous example if we go to, can that father say, oh, I don't care, just, if you suffer, I don't care, just you go on your own. He doesn't do that. He stays with the child. He gives, the safe place for him to drive the car. So actually the suffering is not because Krishna's will. The suffering is because the choice that Krishna has given us out of love. He has given us the choice. If you want to do this activity, He has given us the Shastra. how we should do it. But if we are not following that, if we use our free will to satisfy our senses instead of Krishna's senses, then we are bound to get reaction. Like if your parent says to a small child, that fire is very hot, don't touch that. But the child, he doesn't care, he wants to experiment. So if he goes and touch it, and it will burn his hand, it will not think that, oh, he's a child. So that's how, because of our karma, we get the reaction. So what we see in this material world is not God doing, it's our own karma, because we are working in ignorance. That's why this knowledge is so important, because unless and until we get this knowledge, we will not, we cannot stop the suffering, because we will keep on acting for satisfying our senses. And when we satisfy our senses, we will again go into the sinful reactions, and we will get karma, and again we'll get reaction for that, and that suffering will never end. But Lord, on the contrary, He is so willing to take us back. That is the love that Krishna has for us. So when we have gratefulness for the Lord, then we can think that, this is not I am doing, this is Krishna doing. Then another thing is chanting. When we chant, it clears because our mind, all the desires are stored, whatever from the past life, good, bad, all desires are stored in the mind. So when we chanting is and hearing Krishna's name, because Lord is absolute. So that sound vibration, when it enters our heart, it clears our heart, it clears our mind, and slowly we get detached from this material world, and we are not attached, our attachment towards material world decreases, and we slowly, the ignorance get uprooted. That's how chanting helps. And the last point which I would like to share, which is very powerful, is association of devotees. Because in association of devotees, it helps us come out of the delusion. How we can come out of the ignorance with association from devotees? Because what devotees do? They chant, they hear the glories of the Lord, they talk about the Lord. So in association of devotees, you are always meditating on the form of the Lord. So that helps us. Your attachment to the material life slowly starts decreasing, and all of you can experience yourself. Like when you came in contact with the devotees, how much, like if you look back your life, how much your life has changed. It's because that association, that ignorance, it helps to take out our ignorance. And and also in association of devotees, we read scriptures. We come to know what is knowledge, what is right knowledge. So when we read scriptures, like today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, we are reading from Srila Prabhupada's purport under the guidance of Satyasara Prabhu and Jai Subhadra Mataji. They teach us how to understand these scriptures. Otherwise, it is very difficult to understand, like what is the right knowledge. So when we learn under the authorities, when we learn the scriptures, that's when we can understand that we are not the doer, ultimate doer is the Lord. So, and in conclusion, I would like to say that we should, even though we are superior to the matter, because we are superior, living entities are the superior energy of Krishna. So we can play, that's why we can create some big buildings or skyscrapers. So that's what boosts the false ego. I can do it, I am doing this by myself. But we forget that the material is provided by the Krishna, the intelligence is provided by the Krishna, the ability is provided by the Krishna. So we should not forget that even though we are superior to matter, but we are always subordinate to Lord. That position we should never forget. And when we accept that position, that subordinate position, and then when we serve in that mood of subordinate position as a menial servant of the Lord, then we come out of this suffering of material world, of this doer mentality, and we go back to Godhead. So
at the end, I would just like to, talk about how these 5 factors apply to Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada came to USA, his age was 69. He traveled on a cargo ship. He was short on, help. He was short on finances. He had 2 heart attacks on the ship. When he came, he went to New York, to a part of New York, which people were doing all kind of, illicit and illegal activities, So you can see that, there was nothing much in his favor. He was 69. I'm 50, and I get up in the morning, I do nothing, but I get a backache. So my senses are already going. But age of 69, having no help, having 2 heart attacks on the ship. So thing is that all with these 4 factors that we have seen, they were not very much in favor of Srila Prabhupada. But there was only one factor that was favorable to him. He was doing all those things on the order of his Guru Maharaj and Krishna. And that was the final and the 5th factor that was working with him, that trumped all the other 4 factors. He performed his endeavors, he did everything in his capacity, and he remained totally dependent on the Lord. While I just like to sing 2 lines from his song. While on the Jaladuta, he wrote this song. The name of the song is Boro Kripa Koile Krishna. So I'll just sing these 2 lines from his song, and we can see how Srila Prabhupada, what is his thought process. Aniya cho jadi Prabhu amare na chate, na chao Prabhu, na chao se mate. So the translation is, O Lord, this is Srila Prabhupada, O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. Elsewhere he says that I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. So you can see, the mood of Srila Prabhupada. So I would like to request you all to imbibe this mood in all the activities, so that we can make ourselves successful, as well as we can help Srila Prabhupada's mission successful. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, if you all have any questions or clarifications, you all may ask. Please hold on to the glorifications. Maybe after the class you all can meet and talk to them. Any questions? Online, is there anyone? Is there anyone? Okay, if there are no questions, Prabhu and Mataji, I would like to take, on behalf of everyone, thank you all for this wonderful class. It was really amazing and enlightening. And Prabhu, your amazing Kirtan as well, a beautiful bhajan. With that, we will move on to the next segment of the program, which is the Arati. Today's Arati Pujari service will be performed by Pushpanjali Mataji, and Kirtan will be done by Nritya Gauranga Prabhu, supported by his very good wife, Lakshmi Priya Mataji, and their 2 children, Radha and Govind. They have come all the way from ISKCON, Alachua, Florida. So, devotees, please rise up.
Lift it up a little bit. This is right, okay. This side. How long we should go? Half hour? Half hour, right?
The last part of the...
Last part of the Arati. Okay. And then later we will do the Narsinga Arati, right? Pardon? Later we will do the Narsinga Arati after the Arati is complete.
The sitting down.
Just Hare Krishna mantra. So, Pranam mantra and Hare Krishna forward. Okay, I just want to ask the forward.
The usual Arati.
Do you have a Kirtan? Yeah, it is okay.
You need a Mridanga?
No Kirtan.
Okay, the kids do Kirtan on the Kirtan. For the kids you can ask.
You can be on the Thank you. Very well. So who is on the left? Okay.
You do Prem Dhwani also.
Yeah. Prem Dhwani. Okay.
Prem Dhwani, then Ashwin.
Who is starting the Arati?
Namo Om.
No. Who is doing the
Huh?
Who is doing the?
See, the Pujari is there.
Oh, okay. I'm just waiting for it.
I can try.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
हरे हरे जय राधा कृष्ण जय राधे राधा कृष्ण जय राधा कृष्ण जय राधा कृष्ण जय श्री राधे जय राधा कृष्ण जय राधा कृष्ण जय श्री राधे जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल लड्डू गोपाल लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल लड्डू गोपाल लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय 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 जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकचार्य स्तोत्र सतश्री डिवाइन ग्रेस अवचरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की
जय
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकचार्य स्तोत्र सतश्री डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी की नामाचार्य शिलारिदास ठाकुर की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की
जय
प्रेम सको श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की कलियुग धर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी all glorious assembled devotees all glorious assembled devotees all glorious assembled devotees all glorious to Guru and Gauranga Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Hare Krishna Pralada पूर्वक्षः
हिरण्याकाशीपूर्वक्षः
शीलाटङ्कानकालाय
शीलाटङ्कानखाल्याय
ito नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
ito नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो
yato yato yamitato नरसिंहो
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहो
बाहे नरसिंहो हृदये 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 नरसिंहो
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे
तव करकमलवरे नकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गाम् दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
देव कर कमलवरे नाखाम दुध शृङ्गाम् दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु चनुमृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
जय जगदीश जय जगदीश 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 जय जगदीश हरे
जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव
जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंह
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय नरसिम्हदेव भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदी।
Thank you, Nitya Gauranga Prabhu. That was amazing Kirtan, so mesmerizing. Thank you. Thank you, Radha. And we welcome you, Mataji, and the kids to